Good evening, wherever you are. This is another unscripted auction review. Today we're looking at a 17,000-mile 95 Jeep Cherokee SE that closed on Bring a Trailer about 3 weeks ago now. I usually don't review auctions that have already ended. I usually do it while they're in progress, but thought this one might be a little bit different. We know the selling price, which was $18,750, definitely quite high for a base model SE. So let's have a look here. Go through in detail here. First off, right off the bat, I see it's obviously an SE. SE was the base trim level in 1995. 95 was the second to last year of the original body Cherokee before the light update that came for the 97. Well, I guess it's a medium update that came for the 97 model year. This one is painted in light pearl stone, factory color. The SEs had steel wheels, just like this, although I can tell you right now those center caps are not correct for this one. In fact, if I remember correctly, I'm looking through a brochure that I have here. I believe these wheels, the standard wheels in an SE, no, these were actually correct at this point. Earlier on they had ones that had more like a slotted look to them, and these are a little bit different. These are a 15 by 7 inch 6-spoke. They're supposed to have black center caps. These are silver, which are from the sport wheels, which is a 5-spoke wheel. The Jeep actually used all the way up until the end, 2001. They also offered that same wheel on the early ZJ Grand Cherokees and on the YJ and TJ Wranglers. Very common wheel for these. Anyway, I see some scuffs in the front bumper here. Now this is a 17,000-mile Jeep, or at least it's advertised as such. So we're gonna look at this one pretty extensively. It is located in Frederick, Maryland. 17,000 miles shown. 4-liter inline-6, which was the optional engine that year. They did do the 2.5, which was not that uncommon in SEs at this point. 4-speed automatic, that was an option. Command track was the base transfer case. Gold paint, again, I mentioned that that's the actual name of this, which, unless it's been repainted, should be light pearl stone. Beige vinyl upholstery, and at the time Jeep called it sand, or dark sand, actually. Vinyl came standard on these. Cloth was optional. We'll see what this has. Front disc brakes, all XJs had that. 15-inch steel wheels, as I mentioned, the wrong center caps, air conditioning, crank windows, which is an SE thing, AM/FM stereo, clean Carfax, and sold by a private party. It's had a fair number of views, a lot of watchers. That's a good number for this seller. 17,000 miles, obviously, should get your attention there. So it was acquired by the seller last year. It's currently 2024. Now it shows 17,000 miles. Finished in gold over beige, so this is mostly a rehash. Work in preparation for the sale included changing the fluids. So we'd like to know which fluids here. Replacing the air filter. These only have one. There's no cabin air filter. The serpentine belt and battery, as well as exterior and interior lighting and trim. So it'll be interesting to see what this means as far as lighting and trim. This could be just bulbs. This could be actual assemblies. And trim is a pretty broad term, although there's not a lot of trim on these, so we'll see. So it doesn't include a whole lot here. Clean Carfax and a clean Maryland title. There's a rear view. I see there's a dealership badge on the back here, and a trailer hitch. This appears to be an aftermarket hitch. Get a closer look. I see what looks like a space saver, the small spare tire without a cover there. No tinted windows. Doesn't even look like it has a rear defroster, although I can't really tell. Yeah, definitely was a pretty low end. Alright, so the grille, headlight trim, right tail light, and marker light assemblies were replaced by the seller. So these are all available aftermarket. So we'll see if they look like they're new. Aftermarket ones don't really fit all that well, but they look better than a beat-up factory one. Close-up photos show paint meter readings as well as chips and blemishes and paint around the truck. Here's a side view. The silver wheels, and again, these should to be black center caps. They even look a little bit different, the black ones, slightly different. It looks like there was something around the driver's door lock. We'll take a better look in a minute. Michelin Defender LTX MS tires. These are good tires, or decent tires at least, for 2021 date codes. A brake fluid flush, and the rotors and drums were replaced. Presumably the pads were as well. It'd be strange not to, but who knows. All right, there's this one does appear to have the vinyl seats. This looks like the factory stitching in here. I don't see a center console. This is a very low-end Cherokee here. This was probably the newspaper special at the time. It does have air conditioning, which I think was considered a no-cost option on these. It was definitely optional, but I believe it was a no-cost. So in other words, on the window sticker, they'd credit you. Crank windows, AM/FM stereo. Work for this in preparation for this included repairing the driver door pull. Now those are rubber, and they do tend to break. So we'll see if it was replaced. And replacing the dome light assembly. So a lot of weird little stuff has been fixed here. Where is visible on the driver's seat, and the replacement headliner has a ripple. So it didn't mention that the headliner had been replaced. That's a lot of stuff for a 17,000 mile vehicle. So I don't think this thing was treasured. But I'm not gonna doubt the 17,000 miles just yet. We'll see what some of the touch points look like, and what some of the common wear items look like. 2-spoke airbag steering wheel. This was the first year for the airbag wheel. This one does not have cruise control. Those are horn buttons, and that's not leather wrapped. 85-mile-an-hour speedometer. That was standard for the year. I forget when they went to. I think maybe the next year actually they went back to 120 mile an hour. 85 was a federal mandate for a while on speedometers in the U.S. And a fuel level gauge. So this has the basic instrument cluster. The optional one had, so these are just dummy lights, as you'd call them, for things like battery voltage. The optional one had a tachometer and had full gauges on the sides here. 6-digit odometer shows 17,000 miles, less than 1,000 of which are added under current ownership. Now these odometers are pretty reliable. I don't really hear a lot about them breaking like they are in certain cars, but that said, they're very easy to replace or very easy to roll back. Again, I'm not making that full claim here. Let's take a better look. The 4-liter was rated 190 horsepower, 225 pound-feet of torque. I'm going to verify. Yeah, those are the correct numbers. I know that changed a little bit year over year as they did things like small emissions tweaks. The current owner changed the oil, flushed the coolant, replaced the air filter, serpentine belt, and battery. So yeah, looks like they did most of the fluids here that no mention so far of driveline fluids or power steering fluid, but at least they did the coolant and the brake fluid and the engine oil. The stickers are all factory here. We'll get a better look. They're pretty faded, but probably not that strange. All right, underneath, definitely noticing some corrosion here on the rear axle. Those are probably the original shocks. I doubt this has been off. You know, this is probably not far off of a vehicle that lived somewhere in a northern or wintry or damp climate with 17,000 miles, but I don't know. I kind of expect it to look a little better, but we'll see where it was used. Not much information here. Usually they say something like corrosion, but not listed. Obviously visible though. List history. All right, Carfax shows history in Tennessee, North Carolina, and Maryland. So a lot of owners, a lot of different places. Let's see here. None of these are really known for rust unless it was on coastal North Carolina or maybe in the mountains of Tennessee, but even then rust is not a big deal. All right, 20 years and 1 month in Tennessee and North Carolina, and it had 5,000 miles at the end of that, so that is interesting. 8 years to the next owner, who added, it looks like, another 11,000 miles, and the current owner's had it for about a year, so let's see here. Let's see, it was first sold in April of 1995. I'm not sure where in Tennessee this town, Sevierville, is. Not familiar with this one, but we've got some. So there is a progression of mileage here. Definitely not a lot of use, though. I mean, this is a 3-year period, roughly, with, 1,200 miles added to it, 1,100 miles. Very, very limited. Same service facility, though. You could call them. I mean, it's been a while, but you could call them and see if they have any information on it. But the last saw it in 2008. That's 16 years ago. It looks like it was registered. It looks like they must do an annual, and so it was registered in 2012, and then there's a gap to 2014. So this could have been somebody passing away. Who knows? Oh, well, here we go. Now it's in owner 2, but it's back to the same repair shop. So it's possible they moved to Colorado. I also don't know where that one is. North Carolina. But back to the same shop. This also could be a mistake. Probably not, but it could be. It's interesting that up here it has all the website and reviews, and here it doesn't. So this could be a Carfax issue. Looks like it went to a Napa store for a brake caliper or calipers, tires, headlights. Again, that's a while ago. All right, that was in Silva, North Carolina, but it was registered in Colorado. It's now a new owner, and again, these can sometimes happen when the vehicle has moved to a new location. So we don't necessarily, this could very well be a single owner who just moved periodically. But they had an emission, so this was an emissions county. I think that's the mountains of North Carolina, that area code, but I'm not entirely sure. Back to the same shop. So this is all kind of in the same area here, same shop. Same shop. I'm kind of thinking that this might be just one or two owners and not actually a third owner, but hard to say. Here it is, oddly enough, at a Ford dealership. Could also be a Ford and Jeep dealership. Sometimes they don't specify. It's back at that Ford dealership again in June of 2020. I mean, we're not doing a lot here other than inspection, so it's very possible that these are just an emissions inspection, although there were some services here in 2018. Back to this dealership. Yeah, this dealership did do some servicing. This also very well may be just the dealership that was close to where the person lived. Now we're at 16,000 miles. This is when the current owner appears to have gotten it in May of 2023, so a little over a year ago. So they aren't just flipping it. They definitely did hang on to it for a year. All right, that's the end. Nothing on their ownership, but that's not to say they didn't maintain it. Here we've got videos. I'm not going to watch these now, but I'll look at them later. It's a nice selection of videos. It does show air conditioning, so I'm guessing we have something there. Right, let's buzz through these pictures. There are 214, so a fair number of pictures to go through. Paint looks pretty shiny. I do see probably some little chips. These aren't very good photos, to be honest. It looks like this person used a flash on a camera, on a digital camera. Front bumper's a little scuffed up. Could be an older driver. You never know here. So you can see where they've replaced the headlight buckets. I'm not sure the grille itself was replaced. I forget if it said it was. But given that fading and that mismatch there, it's either it's a used one and these are new. Something's been done, but not a big deal. These do tend to go bad. Here's a side shot. It looks, I mean, it's hard to say, but it looks like this is definitely one of those colors that can play tricks on your eyes. It's sort of that silvery. It can sometimes look darker in some light and sometimes lighter in others, and sometimes panels don't quite look like they match, but it's just a shadow. It looks pretty consistent to me. This Cherokee badge looks like it's, I've got a brochure here I'm comparing to. It does actually look correct. I, for some reason, thought they were over a little further, but it's odd that they, if they didn't line them up in the middle there. I'm used to them saying something into them, like sport. Yeah, I don't know. It looks a little too close over here to me. But that also may have just been misapplied at the factory. 4x4 one back here looks correct. This was a common thing that they used to do. They're like a little rubberized or plastic thing down here, so when your keychain didn't bang and scratch against the door, they're kind of tacky. It looks like there's probably remnants of that, or maybe it's there. There's that little spare. This does have the seatbelt style that they went to, I think, in '94. They changed the seatbelts and buckles a bit. Very obscure knowledge there. There's a rear shot. This one, I just noticed, does not have the rear wiper. This is a very, very, very basic. Actually, I doubt this was $18,000 new. Let's see if I can, as we go along here, I'll see if I can tell you what vehicles, or what options it does not have. So it probably doesn't have intermittent wipers either. I could pull a build sheet on this. They're not very hard to do. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to guess here. Yeah, it's an aftermarket trailer hitch. I imagine we'll get a close-up of that. Go through a little faster here. The dealership was Stinnett in Newport, Tennessee. It's got the third brake light. I forget. I think that was added there. It was a different year for trucks and SUVs than it was for cars, and I want to say it was added in maybe '93, but I forget exactly what year that became a federal requirement. It might have been a little earlier. I might just be rusty on that. I do see some of the original stickers here for things like child locks, and that one, the little one here, I believe is the roadside assistance sticker. I don't think that's a factory sticker. You know, this Cherokee badge looks like it's in the same spot, so I might just be wrong on that. Not a real complimentary photo here, but definitely shows some scuffs in the front bumper. Now here the grille and the headlight buckets look like they're the same color, so we'll see if there's any close-ups. You can see this does look like it's just a clear with a black outline or just a dirty outline. Nice shot though, showing there's no dents in the sides. This is a pretty useless photo here. These are terrible. Definitely, this would have been a good candidate for a professional photographer. Lots of little scrapes in the front bumper here, which is unusual to see. Quite that many, especially down low. It's possible that this person had something that they just bumped into in their garage all the time. Maybe they had, you know, a bicycle or something like that sitting in the front of the garage, anything. The Jeep badge looks right to me. It almost looks a little low, but I think it's right. Yeah, it looks fine. Headlights do look fairly new, so they might have, well, I'm not sure they're the same This one looks older. These lamps here were probably faded and cracked, and there are aftermarkets that are available. They don't fit very well, but that's probably what these are. Let's see if there's a close-up. So the header panel here, this is obviously quite a bit of damage over the years. This is a lot more than I'd expect for 17,000 miles, but you never know. It might just not have been treated all that well. I mean, this was probably somebody who bought the cheapest Cherokee they could get, and they may just not have cared to maintain it that well, or to at least maintain the cosmetics. Seeing some, this is probably where there was mold or something on here under the badge. You probably could get that out using a clay bar. It's still pretty shiny. Rear bumper's got some scuffs. This is not as uncommon because this is where people, drag whatever they have out of there. The corners here are faded and a little bit, this one's off kilter a bit. Something hanging from the, I guess that must be the wiring harness, I don't know. See if there's a close-up of that. Yeah, no defroster. Some states required them. Tennessee must not have. They've got a little arrow here. It's just funny that they've gone through the effort of doing an arrow and gloves, but the photos aren't very good. This is, who knows what this is? I have no idea. The sport models had cladding down here. This looks like the adhesive that would have been left over from the cladding on a sport. The SEs, you know what? No, the SEs did have some cladding on them that year, and it's missing. So somebody's removed all of that rubber cladding. I don't know why I missed that earlier. It's silly of me. Kind of think only people who are obsessive with Cherokees would notice, but yeah, it should have had. No, trying to see if it's, yeah, there we go. Black lower side protection. Sorry, black lower body side protection molding. Yes, it should have had a little bit of a molding. So that is adhesive from that, and that's probably whatever that somebody tried to use to remove the molding. The molding was probably peeling off because that does it, or it was faded, or a combination of the two, or damaged. Some of it was missing. Anything's possible. So somebody has tried to remove it. It's a pain to remove. Oh boy. Yeah, that's it right there. I guess I didn't think it was that big on the SEs. I should have done some research. This truly looks terrible up close. It's probably a repaint at this point to do that right. And we've got the antenna, the cowl, that all looks fine. Somebody's put beam wipers. Those don't work well on Cherokees. You don't put beam wipers on a car that wasn't built for them. Although they do work better on a flat windshield than they do on a curved one. More chips in this cowl here. Let's see, I'm going to speed up because we've got a lot of photos left. So definitely some staining and a lot of little chips here. This is faded. Suggests to me that the Cherokee spent some time outside, although, to be honest, the paint looks really quite nice. We sold at a Chrysler Plymouth Dodge Jeep Eagle dealership. This is just so neat to see these old car dealership badges. A U-Haul trailer hitch. That's the wiring, I guess, that somebody's popped back up there. It's a pretty old hitch. Cherokees are not very good at towing, but for a light trailer, they're fine. There is a headlight or tail light there. It does have the little rubber. These tend to go missing. This all looks nice from quick glance. They do fade here. Not unusual. Even if they don't see sun, that just sort of goes away. That's the third brake light with Safeguard is the factory glass. Let me go back to this. This yellowiness here, or oranginess, is very common. It must be something that was in the rubber on the inside. There's really not much you can do about it. You can clean it up. It'll never make it look great. This all looks fine. The raised badges were correct for the year. Here we've got, looks like they're probably going to point at all the chips. That's probably bird poop that nobody cleaned up. That's probably tree sap. That's a photo I wouldn't have submitted. There's that rear with, it's actually quite rare to find one that does not have the, either doesn't have the wiper, I mean that's rare enough, or it still has that little plug. The windshield has been replaced at some point because that's a new seal. There's a Safeguard. So yeah, somebody's put identification codes. They probably did this in 1995 on the windows. I don't know if that's the phone number you were supposed to call to report if you found them. I'm not sure how effective that was, but Safeguard, Safeguard, Safeguard. There's the inside of the spare where it's probably supposed to be looking at this. Right, these are good photos here. I like these. This is a bit dirty, but this all looks good. They did tend to rust underneath this. I'm not too worried about this Cherokee, and they also rust in here, which looks fine. We'll see. All right, we've got just one photo like that. We'll see if we have more. Some paint meter readings. So with paint meters, you're not really, don't pay so much attention to the actual number. I mean, it's useful to a point, but you're more looking for consistency. And these are all in the 4, give or take, range. So this is all suggesting to me factory paint here. Some are a little thicker than others. I don't know what panels we had, it was hard to tell, but there's a wheel. You can clean these Michelin to get them to white again. That would look a lot nicer. Not that hard to clean that up. Yeah, wheels look like, I bet you these wheels have been refinished. They look like they've been painted. Because actually it looks like, let's see if I zoom in, will I get enough? No. It looks to me like they left the wheel weights on when they did that, so they probably painted them when they were on the vehicle. Although the valve stem was not painted. Yeah, and I guess now that I say that, the brake was not painted, so maybe they removed them and painted them. Either way, they look really shiny, really nice. I mean, hard to tell if it was a good paint job, but some scuffs in the fender flares here. This might just be a shadow, but I guess it's just a reflection of the wheel. I don't know how the wheel is reflecting like that. That's confusing to me, but because it does look like a different color. But here we have a bit of the fender liner. This is the rear because it's the fuel tank. There's the front. That all looks nice. A little bit of red, but that's probably just from a red dirt, which is probably why the Michelin on the tires is probably lived on a dirt road or drove on one often. Now, the listing mentioned a lot of wear on the driver, or some wear, but I don't really see much on the driver's seat. It looks really nice. These did crack easily, so this is quite impressive. It really does look good. I mean, they're not particularly comfy seats, but that does look good. Yeah, that is the vinyl. Yeah, because they did do a fabric seat with the same style, but it was a bit different looking. The vinyl had an imprint in it. Let's see, what else do we see here? We see the steering wheel still got some of its grain on it, so that does suggest mileage is probably certainly not a lot. No center console. Very strange to not see that. The mini one was actually standard on sports as well. I've only seen 1 or 2 sports with it. I've seen more SEs, but even that was usually a fleet thing, but this did not appear to have been a fleet vehicle. There's an aftermarket mat here that's nice. Doesn't really match, but it looks good enough. I did notice a little staining on the driver's side, but oh, there we go. We do have a little bit of wear there. It does look like more than I'd expect for 17,000 miles, but it is a 30-year-old vehicle at this point, and these were not particularly nice vinyl. In fact, it was very cheap vinyl. Seats were fairly comfy in these, though. Dash looks good. Yeah, I mean, they can kind of warp a little bit. Cherokee dashes hold up fairly well. There's a AAA sticker down there, which definitely suggests older ownership. For some reason, that's something old people do. I do see the factory AM/FM radio on this, which was standard with 2 speakers on the SE. So I don't know. We'll see if we see some rear speakers back there. I don't think you could get 4 speakers. You could actually. You could get 4 speakers, 2 more speakers in the rear with the AM/FM. I thought you had to upgrade to the cassette. Very basic, not much to look at in this interior. We're getting a little picture of the door jambs here. Those look good. Try to breeze along a little quicker, which I know I keep saying I'm doing. A little under 17,000 shown. Instrument cluster looks really clean. This just does have a 17,000 mile cluster look to it. Yeah, maybe these miles are accurate. And it just was probably parked outside under a tree in a shady area. And this has carport feel to it. Carport feel, because the interior is pretty nice. So it's probably covered, but not fully. Is that center console, a little coffee or beverage stain there, hopefully. It's just funny to see just the parking brake sitting there with nothing around it. Glove box. Yeah, I mean, it does look like, and this looks fine, I think it's just dirt in there. But I do see probably a little bit of rust or some dirt right there, maybe from where paint chipped. But in this seam here, this looks good. These are the detail photos are, while they're not particularly sharp, they are good. It's nice to see them. This lock button tends to fade like this. I mean, given this one has manual locks, this person was pushing this every time they got in and out of the vehicle, probably. I don't typically expect that kind of wear, but with manual locks, not that weird. This door panel's been off at some point, either for a speaker repair or a window regulator. There's not much else to go wrong here, and they did a very poor job of putting that back on. So this one looks fine though. Yeah, this all looks good. A little bit of corrosion around it's just the metal corrosion around the latch there, but it does still have the plastic piece. It's usually there on these. Looks like some black floor mats, some sort of generic mat back there. Yeah, floor mats were optional on these, but 30 years on, who knows if they're still around. All the little rubber bits I've seen so far, I haven't really been looking that hard, but they still appear to be there. Those tend to go missing. There's the rear seat. You know, this does have the old style rear seat belts. Maybe those came in '96. I might have been wrong about that. I'll have to look at the front again. There's the jack. That jack does not look like it's been moved. It'd be a little scraped on the bottom because it's just black metal, black painted metal. Floor mats have been flipped over, so they were just upside down. That all looks good. Doesn't really look like a back seat that's been used much. That folds down just like that on all XJs. This all looks good. That's blurry, but fairly good. All looks clean. That's a fairly terrible picture. A little self-selection on pictures would have been good here, but this wiring all looks normal under here. I don't think I see anything aftermarket. So they say the headliner has been replaced, and you can tell because it did not do a very good job up here. And there's where that ripple or waviness is. This might have been a DIY job. A headliner like this is not a particularly expensive one because there's not much for them to do, and it's easy for them to remove it because it just comes right out the back. I probably would have paid somebody to do this properly, but if I didn't know how to do it myself. There's that cargo area. Spare's been on the ground at some point though, so somebody's used it. I think it looks dirty, and it's a bit faded in there. It's missing its cover, but actually no, these didn't come. The SE did not come with a spare tire cover. They were basic vehicles. They kind of, when the ZJ Grand Cherokee came out in '93, they tried to reposition the Cherokee as a lower end model, so they got rid of the limited trim level, and made the Country as the top end one. It did have optional leather, not for every model year. I think there are a couple model years they skipped it, but it was back for '95. They tend to just get dirty in here, and this shows signs of having been dirty at some point, but cleaned out pretty nicely. These little bolts here, look, they're in good shape. Or little screws, I should say. Wiring looks good. On later ones, these had a rubber boot on them, and the wires were much chintzier. This all looks great. A little dirty under here, but pardon me, nothing you couldn't clean out. Another shot of the spare without the cover. Yeah, you can see some indentations or something's been in the cargo area, but nothing to worry about. I did not notice rear speakers. I didn't look real closely, but I didn't see any. It does have the underhood insulation, which I thought was part of the. I thought that was part of a package that had more insulation in general for the vehicle. So it might have been a different model year. I'm thinking it might have just been standard on the SE that year. You can also add that. This piece I think is still available. It's not particularly difficult to put on. It's a little annoying to have to remove the this part of the hood release system, but nice to see that. It does make them a little tiny bit quieter. It still has the rubber strip back here. These tend to go missing. Alright, underhood it's dirty, but that's fine. That doesn't bother me. Nothing amiss. Doesn't have ABS, but not real surprising. Like I said before, this was the one they advertised in the newspaper as the cheapest one. It was probably, the dealership probably sold it for $13,000-$14,000 back then. Yeah, it's just dirty, but I don't see anything strange. Yeah, everything looks good. There's the fuel injector rail, some of the air conditioning bits over there. I think there's a picture at some point of the air conditioning in operation, or at least that's right, there was a video. A bit dusty here in the ECU and airbox and such. So they definitely did not do a full detailed job on this, which is, again, nice to see. I'm just surprised at the wear in general for 17,000 miles under here. That sticker's in nice shape. That tends to fade. Just looks like a lot. It's just grimy and dirty for 17,000 miles. I get that it's 30 years old, but it's still grimy and dirty. Not what I'd expect. Not really seeing any major rust concerns here. There's a bit on some of the battery tie down, or battery, the bolts there and the connectors, and on the air conditioning there's some there too. And actually these all have a little bit of rust on the top there. But, nothing serious by any means. There's some rust here and here. For being a new belt, allegedly it's starting to fray, it looks like. I'm not sure I buy that that's a new belt. Or if it is, there might be an alignment issue there. I mean, I don't know how to say this nicely, but this looks like a 100,000 mile Cherokee under the hood. It is not particularly nice here. And I'm not just saying that because it's dusty, but it's the sheer amount of grime and oily substances. And this same thing here. This looks like a 100,000 mile Cherokee, at the very least. You can see that part of the steering system, this guy's been replaced, but everything else is factory. I mean, the sway bar links are factory. It does have the bump stops. But boy, this is just rusty for... I mean, it's just lived in a damp climate, I guess. It's just the humidity must get to it there. Sitting outside, I'm trying to think here. If it just sat outside, lived in a carport, would it get this rusty and have 17,000 miles? Those are questions I would be asking. This is all correct. I know a lot of people question this one, but it is. I've seen enough of these now that this is correct. The leaf spring is quite rusty there. No rust on the body, though. That's great. I mean, it's a solid truck for sure. I'm just questioning if you're after a real low mile one. I just something's amiss here. Exhaust is rusty. Pardon me. It just doesn't have that feel to me. That's a pretty bad photo there. We are seeing the under engine splash shield was there, although it's drooping in some spots, so it's probably torn. I didn't take a good look at it. There's the 231 command track transfer case. That was the base transfer case, which was the only one you could get on the SE for this year. Now that said, there were some tweaks to the SE model. If you were a fleet buyer, you could get specific things, but for the consumer market, which this is not a fleet vehicle, what I've said is accurate so far. Based on, I'm looking at a 1995 model year Jeep brochure, so that's where I'm getting all this. So it was subject to change, but I think it's pretty accurate on this one. There's that rear leaf spring that's rusty. There's the wiring for the trailer hitch. Trailer hitch has got a little bit of rust on it, so it's probably an old hitch. Yeah, and that's the I think it's a 4-pin. Some rust on the exhaust pipe. That does look factory. It looks like it's hanging a little bit low, but it might just be the angle. That looks factory. It looks rusty though, so I'd be probably going to do an exhaust at some point here. But that said, I mean, this is just dirt, I think. I don't think that's any of that's rust. You're going to need to do sway bar end links and bushings. The one to the frame here is, I can see the gap there. This thing, I bet, is loud over bumps. Alright, so there's some seepage under here. Yeah, some seepage for sure. It's kind of a blurry shot of the transfer case. So that rear differential, that actually looks really good. A little wet around there. It's probably been changed at some point. Or it could be just a little bit of seepage again. A little bit there where the transmission meets the engine. So that suggests rear main seal. Not unusual. Replacement windshield. There's the VIN. It was built in April of '95, which I think is when it was registered as well. So it's possible it was a custom order. And let's see, it was built on April 3rd and was registered a couple weeks later. Tennessee's not too far from Ohio, so that all lines up. It did not. That's interesting though, because it did not sit in dealership inventory for long at all, because it was sold in April of 95. I forget what the date was. We can look, but I think it was 25th or something like that. So that's it. To be honest, it's really quick to get it to the dealer, but that's not, who knows what they were doing back then. But that to me suggests this might have actually been a special order. Somebody just wanted the cheapest thing possible, rather than the dealer or the advertisement special. Could have been either. That could have been the ad special that somebody just decided they wanted. But this is basically I should look through these a bit more. This is basically a zero option Cherokee. Here's the emissions system. I don't know if in 95, I'd have to look. You'd have to research this yourself, but I don't know if there was a California emissions version for 95. There were for some years. There was, actually. I take that back. California and Massachusetts had a different emissions system. So this would be a bit tricky to get this one to California or Massachusetts, possibly. I'm not sure how picky Massachusetts is today, but California will do a visual, and they will look somewhere over there for a sticker that says it's California. This is just the casting number, the manifold there. Here's the manuals. These are all the correct ones for the year, including that little sleeve, very cheap. Another picture of the manuals, back of the manuals. It's funny to see the Eagle logo, and Plymouth for that matter. And heck, Chrysler's pretty much gone. And the new Dodge, that was when the truck-like Ram had come out. There's the air conditioning running at 26.4 degrees Fahrenheit. That's very cold. I forget what the range for air conditioning is, but I feel like that's too cold. So these look like they're probably added after the fact. These photos, I should say, and this item around the cube is not factory either. But just given the placement of the photos, the seller uploaded these. That adhesive has failed there, and so dirt has managed to work its way in. You could remove these. I would probably, I don't know. You're probably opening up a Pandora's box of difficult to remove adhesive here. They're not something I would have put on in 1995, but hard to go back in time. There's the headlights. The instrument cluster looks almost too bright. I wonder if they replaced it with LED bulbs in there. It's nice, actually. And I'm looking at the reflection of the transmission and transfer case. Also look too bright. Headlights are probably H4s, given how bright they are, but I don't know. There's the brights. Yeah, that's really nice, actually. Be interesting to see how much those dim. Yeah, they definitely replaced everything back here with LEDs. Even the radio, I think they might have done with LEDs. It's really nice. It's a nice upgrade. Yeah, there's probably LED bulbs in the. These might be LEDs as well. I don't know if they. No, I don't think the brake lights are on. I think these are just the low tail lights. It's funny, you can see the trailer hitch light too. Part of the wiring harness back then. That was something you used to see. You don't see much anymore. Third brake is not lit up, and I don't think I see anybody in there. So there's the headlights. They look a little bluish. They might have an LED bulb in them. Alright, this is interesting. This must be the original stuff that they removed. So they do have the black center cap still. So somebody intentionally put the silver ones on. I would go back to the black. I think they look better, but there's not a lot you can do to really lift a beige Cherokee SE, to be honest. We got keys here. This is an aftermarket and one factory. That's neat. This did not have remote keyless. Not surprising. There's no power locks. And we're back to the original. Alright, that's it. So, in conclusion here, I'm going to do a little bit more of a conclusion on this one because it's already over and it's sold. This is a hefty selling price, for sure. The things that brought it up was the 17,000-mile claim. The fact that the body is quite solid. 26-degree air conditioning, that's great. They've done some basic maintenance ahead of time for you. And the vehicle's unmodified. Other than those center caps, I think that's the only, I'm not sure I'd call it a modification. Although you do have to remove the wheels to pull those off. But still, not have those all off in an hour and replaced. So those definitely work in its favor. Not working in its favor, there are a lot of little scuffs and scratches throughout. The adhesive that's on these lower door panels here you're going to really struggle to get that off correctly. It's a vehicle you're probably going to want to paint, and that's tricky. Or replace if you can find those. You're still going to have some of those drip marks from whatever the adhesive remover somebody mistakenly used. Underside has definitely got some rust on surface rust. I mean, it's not serious, but it is definitely rust still. Something I'd be concerned about, especially given where it lived. If this had lived in Massachusetts, I'd be less concerned about that rust. In fact, I'd say it's quite good for 17,000 miles, but I'm not sure that it's humid enough in Tennessee for that to... Something doesn't quite add up. Same with under hood. It just looks too dirty to me. I did not see in the front bumper here any signs of this having been used as a towed vehicle behind an RV. Although I guess it would get more miles that way. So I don't know. I'm wondering... I don't get an impression here that it's been rolled back. I wonder if the odometer stopped working at some point. And started working again. Maybe it was repaired. That isn't necessarily noted in the Carfax. There's no service records included. It's just too dirty underneath and under the hood. And even some of the interior wear, and certainly the exterior wear, just suggests higher miles than this. I don't think it's a 200,000 mile Jeep, but I wouldn't be surprised if this body really has 100, 120 on it. But you never know. Anyway, if you're the one who bought this Jeep for $18,750 plus another 5%, so what's that work out to? Another grand or so, or almost a grand on this. So somebody paid almost $20,000 for this. Would love to know your story. If you want, please reach out in the comments or shoot me an email. My email address is in the comments as well. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. It's really important that you subscribe to these videos. You'll get a notification then when I post the next one. All right, thanks very much. Hope everybody has a great day.